Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Be Well with Alex. I am very excited for today because you are no longer just going to hear me yap. I'm actually bringing on my favorite yapper, Kennedy Brown. She has been one of my very best friends since college at Florida State University, but I've actually known her since elementary school. We just had different friend groups and our schools were so big, we never really crossed paths, but I'm so glad that we did eventually because she is just the most kind-hearted person I've ever met in my life. She's always in my corner to pick me up when I feel down. And she's so wise too and smart. Whenever we talk, I always take away something to heart that I'm going to apply to my life. So I think you're going to take away a lot from this episode, as I already have. And with that, let's just dive right into it, shall we? I do want to share a disclosure before we jump right in that because this is a raw, unfiltered version of Kennedy's story that we will be discussing today, we might be mentioning some behaviors or some thought patterns that might be triggering for some people. So please listen to this podcast only if and when it feels right for you. Thank you, and let's welcome on Kennedy. Well, Kennedy, welcome to Be Well with Alex. I am super excited to have you here, and I know we've talked a lot about having you on the pod recently, so I think this was something that we were both really looking forward to.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be here. Knowing you for as long as I have, seeing you start this podcast has been super exciting. So joining the journey, I've been waiting for this day.
I already told the listeners a little bit about how I know you, but just from your word of mouth, tell them how we know each other.
So we technically know each other through middle school. We went to the same middle school, but we weren't in the same friend groups. But I believe we were both aware of each other's existence for a little bit and then jumped to high school. She was on the track team with an ex of mine who could not talk more highly of her, of just about what amazing type of person she was. So I was really nervous to be her friend. From my perspective, she was the perfect person. Teachers loved her, everyone got along with her, and then jumped to college. We ran into each other at Starbucks. And the first question you asked me was I still with my ex from college? And I don't think I've laughed as hard as we did. And ever since then, I think right after that, we frolicked through the flowers together at Florida State. And then our friendship just took off, and it's like we've been connected through all these years without actually knowing each other that well. So we're making up for lost time.
A lot of lost time. You found out I was not a perfect person after all down the road.
Yeah, comparison is a thief of joy. So that is definitely something I've learned with age.
For sure. Well, on top of that, what else do you want to tell the listeners about yourself?
So I have a marketing company, WIT Marketing, and the name of the company represents whatever it takes. I'm a strong believer in never categorizing yourself as a victim, but a warrior of what you've gone through. Without getting into too much detail now, I am someone who's been on the roller coaster of life and refused to learn from it for a while, but over the last 5 years especially have made the transition into being comfortable with the uncomfortable, and that has changed the game ever since.
I love that answer. I tell people that all the time. Growth happens when you're uncomfortable, not when you're comfortable. And it's hard to remind yourself of that sometimes, but I even keep that as a little note in my phone and in my journal, because in the moment, especially in recovery, you feel a lot of discomfort. I just like to look at that note and kind of remind myself it's the only way that we're going to grow as humans. So we got to get ourselves out there every once in a while.
I actually learned a book. It was called Change and Transition during leadership class.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Everyone has one book that a teacher has had them read that kind of changed their existence. That book and Everything Is, I can't think of it, by Hank Green. Everything Is, what's that lung disease? Starts with a T.
Tuberculosis?
Yeah, Everything Is Tuberculosis. That book and Change and Transition were game changers on just how to view the world and not view yourself as a single entity, but part of reality.
I'll have to look those up. I feel like I have so many books going on at once that sometimes I'm like, I don't need more books, but those sound really good. So I'll have to look those up, especially if you're recommending them.
Yeah, and I don't read much anymore, not since high school, so highly recommend.
It's hard. Austin and I were talking about this the other day. When you get into adulthood, I just feel like your whole day is reading, depending on what job you have, or even just like emails or things going on. that when you get home, the last thing you want to do is read. So for me, I like to listen to audiobooks in the car because I get my reading time, but I'm listening to it as I'm doing something else. Because I don't know, I want to get back into it so bad, but then I lay down at night and I'm just like, I just don't want to read words
Well,
right
also
now.
with what you do for work, you're on the computer for the majority of the day, so your eyes at
Yes.
the end of the day are probably exhausted and need the relaxation.
100%. Well, cool. What made you want to come on Be Well with Alex? Why now?
So it goes back to the whole perfect person. I believe social media has really changed a lot of people's perspective on societal norms and the societal competition we're all a part of. We'll get into it more throughout my story, but I wanted to get on Be Well because you sharing your story really helped me to want to share mine. And I stopped posting on Instagram in about 2022 was my last post. I realized comparison is the thief of joy, and once you start comparing yourself to others, the lack of reality of what's really going on, you start to disassociate from the negatives or even the positives. So you having me on this podcast really brings the growth I've had to the surface that I've been denying for a while, because I've seen your growth firsthand in person, but seeing it broken down of your recovery through this podcast has been even more eye-opening, because there's always questions you never think to ask when you're 3 wine glasses deep, or we're having a beach day, we're looking at seashells, we're not talking about the down and dirty. So you allowing someone grace and a platform to do that is an amazing experience I wanted to be a part of.
Thank you. And I'm excited to have people on because I'm tired of just yapping about myself and my day. And I want to hear from other people and have their stories shared as well. And I will say, even you coming out and wanting to do this, I've shared with a couple friends that you were going to be on, and now they want to be on. So you actually are starting a movement here, which I think is really, really cool.
And I also want to say I love being right behind Austin on the guest list.
Oh, of course. You should have been in front of Austin, let's be real. Austin third wheels.
I didn't want to say it.
You know? I also wanted to say, too, on the social media thing, before we dive into your story, I feel that hardcore. There's sometimes, even now, with my Be Well account, where I have to take a break, at least for a couple days, for a week, because I start to look at the superficial things, like, wow, they have so many followers. How are they getting so many people engaging? Why am I not there yet? And I have to take myself out of it and just realize that that's not the purpose here. The purpose is to build a community, but that's going to take time. And what I really want to do is just show people that they have an outlet to speak. I want to make a difference in people's lives in terms of having them be less afraid to speak out about their own experiences, because that is how we make a movement and create change.
Especially from this perspective I had of you for so long growing up. It really allowed me to give myself grace with what I was going through and sharing what I was going through, because you and I are a lot alike. We shove things down. So you having a platform like this is definitely a game changer.
Yeah. I think Austin just came in. What did you say? I did hit record. Yes. Thank you for checking. Austin's my tech guy, and he came in. He was like, did you hit record? I was like, yes, sir, I did. I almost didn't, though. Thank you, Austin. So obviously I've heard bits and pieces of your story before, especially during our beach days, because we do spend some time trauma dumping a little bit. I mean, you have to, right? You're in this nice environment with your best friend. You got to do a little bit of that. But I do want to hear it from your perspective. So wherever you would like to begin, take us back to where you first started with your mental health struggles.
So I've always felt different, but I didn't realize different was bad up until really I was aware of me feeling isolated, and I don't have much memory of it bothering me other than coming home and, talking to my parents about it like everyone else does. But it wasn't until high school that I was really, really mentally confused on my personality, identity, my goal, my education, socially. So I would say freshman year of high school was really when I feel like my understanding of growing up really happened, because I went from not being interested in boys, didn't have my first kiss till 16, to all of a sudden we had friends that had babies. And once that door opened, it kind of allowed a lot of other things to walk in that door: insecurities, commitment issues, just a fear of what could be, because you're seeing the reality of so many, not so much destroyed, but changed in a way that they would never have wished to have happened.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. It's funny that you say that you weren't into boys. I feel like I've always been into boys. I've always had crushes on guys since I was very young. And even in middle school, I put a lot of pressure on myself to have a boyfriend. If I could go back and speak to middle school Alex, I would be like, you don't need a boyfriend. Honestly, guys are more of a headache than anything. Sorry, babe. But they are. So I understand that completely.
Also, I feel like another similarity we have is we grew up around a lot of adults. Orlando specifically, it's kind of immersed into like football games. The parents would come, cousins would come, parents of cousins would come. So every day, basically, we were intermingled, so you couldn't really escape from it. But I also feel like socially, having conversations with kids our own age was kind of difficult for me, but having conversations with adults was a breeze.
Wow, that's crazy to reflect upon. I completely agree with you. And I think because, especially with my dad being a politician, like, taking me into those environments where all I'm interacting with is adults, it was definitely hard. I remember I got to middle school and I was actually researching memes because all the kids were like sharing dank memes. That was a thing back in our grade.
iFunny.
Yeah, on iFunny. And I didn't know what they were talking about. And so I was like, how do I relate to these people? So I literally had to study how to be a kid, I guess, because I was on such a big maturity level that I thought people found me boring. I don't know if they really did or not, but I thought that way about myself.
For me, I remember because I was around so many adults, I was absorbing their insecurities that no one needs to have at that age. 14, 15, 16, I was already too big for these jeans. I have pudge. I was a child comparing myself to these adults that we would be at during events. And I would see their outfits and I'd be like, I want to dress like that. Finding my own personality and my own identity was really hard because I didn't know which side of the spectrum I belonged in because of the different social elements that were involved.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. My mom always called me a floater because I didn't feel like I ever fit in with one certain clique, which made me an outsider in all of the cliques, I felt like, because they had their tight-knit group. And so I would come in and hang out with them at school, but then I wasn't close enough with them to be invited to things outside of school. So that was really hard. And on top of that, I think with the body image as well, parents don't know it, but even when they say things like, oh, I can't eat that, I'm trying to lose 5 pounds, kids hear that and they think, well, is there something wrong with my body then? Is this something that I shouldn't be eating? And that's a lot to put on a kid from a very young age. And I think that's changing a little bit as time goes on, but I think there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of parents being, I guess, just more mindful of what they're saying around their kids.
Well, it's that, and it's also the verbiage on television that we grew up with. All the housewives, desperate housewives, the amount of crash diets they went on that we looked at like, oh, wow, that outfit they're wearing is amazing. The only reason they can wear that is because of crash diet that this whole episode is wrapped around.
Yes, 100%. So that's a good segue. Looking back, when did your relationship with food begin to change?
So my relationship with food has always been kind of a struggle. I was diagnosed with ADHD at a really young age, so I was on medication, and the medication you take for ADHD is an appetite suppressant. So I remember at a deli once, my parents were like, give her a brownie if she wants a brownie for breakfast, just get calories in her. I remember being very, very underweight, not just, who knows if it was just because of the medication or just, I was a very active child. I was a dancer, cheerleader, I did all those things. But I remember kids would always compare themselves to me, and not in a bad way, but they would say, I wish I looked like this. I wish I looked like you. So I still to this day, I think back, the compliments I got all the time were when I was young, I want to look like that again, but I'm going to be 30 next year. That's not possible.
Exactly. It's like, I don't need to be 100 something pounds anymore at an adult age. That's not realistic anymore. I mean, I think our stories are very similar, and we found that with time. That's why we became such good friends in college. But, you know, I was also diagnosed with ADHD and took appetite suppressants. I was a dancer as well. And that's really hard too, because I remember this was the craziest part to me, actually, was not even my friends telling me I looked good, but I would go to the doctor and I would be clinically underweight. But the doctor didn't act as concerned as they should have because I was underweight versus, I don't know this for sure, but I'm under the understanding that if I had walked into that doctor's office and maybe I was obese, I was on the opposite end of the spectrum, I feel like they would have raised more concern than they did as a kid. They were like, oh, she just has a fast metabolism, all the things you hear. She's just really active. Whereas I think that me hearing with the doctor that wasn't a big deal, and then also getting compliments from other kids kind of compounded that in my head over time that I'm fine. at least I'm eating, I'm not restricting, so I must be fine. Whereas in reality, I really needed to gain a few more pounds to be healthy.
I still remember there was a boy named Josh. After this podcast, I'll say who it was, the last name, but a boy named Josh came up to me and I was wearing leggings and he goes, "Oh, you look like you've lost weight." This was freshman year of high school. I still think about that comment to this day of how good that felt and chasing that high. And it wasn't something that I saw as an issue genuinely till me and you started talking. That's not normal.
I remember the first boy I asked out, because again, boy crazy, in middle school. I'm going to bleep names after this. So his name was you might remember
Yeah.
I asked him to a school dance. I remember he laughed in my face. And then when we got to high school, I remember I saw him freshman year and I had lost a bunch of weight from cross country. And he looked at me and he's like, "Damn, Sublet, you got hot." And I was like really offended by that. I honestly didn't pay it any mind. I was like, bro, screw you. To me, it made me realize, oh, do people like me now because I'm skinnier? I don't know. Or do people want to be my friend more because I'm skinnier?
I do remember those dances and whatnot, those dresses those girls would wear. I would always wish I looked that way. I remember posting on Instagram in 9th grade, me trying outfits on in JCPenney, a little short cheetah print dress. Why am I sexualizing myself at 16?
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
That's insane.
You know what? I appreciate my mom for this. I feel like with school dances, she never let me get tight dresses. She was just like, "No, it's not age appropriate. You need to wear something that has more of like an A-line or a flare." I never realized she did that until now. She said no cutouts and no tight dresses. I kind of appreciate that now.
I don't remember my parents really giving me a dress code, but I do remember, not from my parents, but from certain people within our life saying I looked sexy in certain outfits over the others. So saying that now really grosses me out. But at the time, I was like, if adults like me, kids my own age are going to like me. That's not how that works.
No, it's not. And honestly, adults are creepy. I've come to realize that as I age. I'm like, man, there's some creepy adults out there. Ones in your neighborhood, too, who you think are your parents' friends. So moving forward, did you seek help at that time for your eating? Did it get any better? Or did this continue all the way into college and adulthood?
So my main focus wasn't my eating. It wasn't even a consideration. I was always, I don't want to say naturally skinny because I was on the medication. I was always on the skinny side, being 5'8", that it was never a consideration. My mom had, 70 and 80s eating habits. So we all know what that looks like. Mm-hmm. So growing up, it was normal to me, but the mental health struggles I did have in high school did lead me to seeking treatment, but that treatment was not successful due to a misdiagnosis at the time.
Can I ask what the misdiagnosis was or what the treatment was?
I was misdiagnosed with bipolar and I was put on lithium, and that it was a horrible experience. Britney Spears was put on lithium. It made me gain 30 pounds. And that really drove home my insecurity with gaining weight. It was a big issue between me and my family. I really wanted to get off the medicine, but it was difficult because my father is bipolar and learned behavior can trigger misdiagnosis.
Oh,
so it was hard to separate the two up until I sought treatment consistently, but we couldn't really figure out what was going on up until two years ago. I was having a lot of problems in corporate America, and instead of driving to work one day, I drove to a therapist's office that I knew was covered under my insurance. And I called my mom. I go, either I walk in this building now and get help, or I'm gonna walk off a bridge or total my car or something. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I didn't want to take another step in life. I was then diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety and depression along with ADHD. So like the majority of Americans and people within the world, it's just another struggle that makes me unique but doesn't change my outlook on life.
And I want to say it doesn't define you either. I think, and I hear this a lot in the eating disorder community, people often say, my eating disorder. I mean, it is a part of your life, but it's not you. There's so much more to you as a person underlying all that I actually don't like it when people say my, because it labels it as theirs. I want them to be separate from that because they do have a whole separate life. But I'm glad that you did that. That's so brave to say, you know what, my mental health needs to come first. Screw the job, screw whatever's going to happen, because obviously I can't even do the job if I'm not going to be here.
Prestique saved my life.
What is it called?
So it's the generic name is, I think, Prestique.
Okay.
but it's Valifaxine is like the long name of it. That's the thing about taking medication. It's like dating, finding therapists. You have to
Yes.
do the struggles before you find the successes. And I went through so many types of medication, and that goes into kind of the destruction of my last relationship and my relationship in high school. Me trying to work on myself should have been the main priority when I was trying to fix everyone else. But when I took the opportunity to finally just look in and get on medications, it was a game changer. I now wake up excited for the day more times than I wake up like, can I go back to sleep?
Yes. I'm so glad you said that about the dating around too, because one medication that works for you, maybe it will work for someone else, but they also have to work with their psychiatrist and see through trial and error what actually works for them. Because everyone's brain chemistry is different. It's like snowflakes up here. Every snowflake is different. All of our different neurons fire differently. So it just really depends on how your brain's going to react to certain things. And it's a wild card. No one really knows until you try it. But it sucks to go through the symptoms that align with that.
But at the same time, it's a privilege. I feel like in today's day and age, at least the people in our social group have the privilege to be able to work on their mental health and seek resources. And if they're not, I think that's kind of a slap in the face because the majority of people don't have the privilege we have to seek treatment, to seek help. So doing that is, I think, the best decision someone can do. But avoiding that, it's not going to end up how you think it's going to.
It's not. And it's so hard too because it is getting so much more expensive nowadays and less accessible for people, which is sad. For instance, one of my medications, because, I don't have health insurance right now, I'm not working a job. And with that, one of my medications went up to $300 for a month's worth of that medication. So what do you do if you don't have a job or even you have a family you're caring for and you really need that medication, you rely on that medication? So it's really hard.
Mine would be $1,400 a month without insurance.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. So I completely agree. It is truly a privilege. And honestly, my parents helped me out a lot with things like that because I'm paying for my own medications right now. But I will say if I wasn't able to, my parents would definitely pick up the slack because they've seen how much it has helped me.
But I will say being on medication is also really scary because I don't know if you've experienced this. Getting reliable refills is really hard, and especially being on antidepressants. The fear of not being able to pick up your medication on time, the brain zaps, people on it will know what that's like. You're kind of under the thumb of whatever pharmacy you're working with, Walgreens, CVS, any of those. So it is nerve-wracking that your existence to a certain point is beholden on a third party.
That is true. Or in my case, another thing that occurred when I was taking ADHD medications is I'd taken it for so long from such a young age. And even though I was on the lowest dose, I became dependent on that medication and it was messing up other areas of my life. And so I decided to get off of it. I decided it wasn't the best choice for me personally, even though some of my doctors were telling me it was. And that was the best thing I ever did. But also the hardest thing I ever did was coming off that medication because, again, I was addicted to it at that point. So it's really hard. I think it just takes going through life experiences to figure out what works for you and realizing at the end of the day, you will get different opinions from professionals as well and to take that into consideration, but also go with your gut when it comes to what you want to put in your body.
I 100% agree.
Let's move into college, the accident, all of that. If you feel comfortable sharing, can you walk us through what happened with the accident?
Yeah, so this was in August 2020, right after COVID lockdown was lifted. I was going to Florida State at the time. I had just got a 2019 Nissan Rogue, and I have no issue saying it. It's just embarrassing, kind of the story. So I met a cute guy and I'm like, I've been under lockdown for so long. Like, I just want to be social and hang out with someone. So I drove 20 minutes away to see him. I was in Tallahassee, but I guess 20 minutes, you're still across state lines in Georgia. Stayed the night, and on my way home, I was going to go to McDonald's. I was listening to WAP by Cardi B, and I was going to take a left. So the street was incoming and oncoming traffic, and I was going to go over. There was a Silverado going 65 and a 30, and in Georgia, some areas are a little hilly. So when I went to take the turn, he was way far back, but because of the speed that he was going, by the time I was in the middle, he slammed into my driver's side door. I was not at fault for the accident, but I ended up breaking my collarbone, scapula, pelvis and tailbone, bruised ribs, traumatic brain injury. I was then knocked unconscious. I'll jump back into what my experience was in those moments, but all I remember is looking to my left, seeing the truck, waking up in the hospital with my brother next to me. But apparently when they found me in the car and woke me up, I knocked out a paramedic. So they had to give me Ativan, was knocked out again. So that's probably why I don't remember it. And when I woke up in the hospital and my brother was there, I wasn't afraid. Like, I remember the moment waking up. I wasn't afraid. I was just really confused what was going on because they gave me morphine at the time. And then I blink, and the next thing I remember is I'm in the hospital and I'm on my phone or I'm Snapchatting, I'm doing something, and then I blink and my mom's picking me up. And my parents couldn't see me because it was in the middle of COVID. My parents didn't know I was in another state. I was 23 at the time. But to me, I didn't think I was going to another state. I was 20 minutes away. But waking up in that hospital bed and texting the guy that, hey, I just got in an accident. He goes, oh, well, I was actually about to say I don't think we should hang out anymore. So it was an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. But I thought for the longest time I was only in the hospital for a day, but I later found out I was in the hospital for 3 days. I didn't tell anyone. Alex didn't even know about my accident until I think like a year or two ago. I was on bed rest for 3 weeks, wheelchair bound. Don't remember a lot from the year prior. Like, I remember the day before the accident, like an hour or two before the accident, but nothing really beforehand. And then after the accident, it was all a blur. And then I end up going back to Florida State. It was 3 weeks before my senior semester. Since I didn't tell anyone what happened, I had to act like I was okay. Still in the middle of COVID, can't drive. So I'm Ubering everywhere, drinking hard, smoking hard, because I didn't take any painkillers. I didn't want to risk getting addicted, so I got my medical card, but I was just numbing any way I possibly could. And when people did know about the accident, like when I came home from the hospital, my brothers, fraternity brothers, all showed up with cards, hung out with me, gave me some pep talks. They knew, so some people knew. I would tell them I'm okay, I'm doing fine, and it wasn't until like a year later that I really realized how bad the accident really affected me and how much my life has changed forever. And the person I was before the accident is not the same person I am today. I was sad, mad, selfish, self-destructive human before the accident, and after the accident it was like I was reborn. I always say the accident was the best thing to ever happen to me, because you don't know how beautiful life can really be till you have that ego death and your ego steps aside for you to really see what's in front of you.
I love that on the ego death. And I completely agree. When you're faced with something that's a life-changing experience like that, you view the world in a whole different light, and things that used to be a big deal aren't as big of a deal anymore.
Well, it was one of those things of, I am the queen of disassociation. Mm-hmm. So when it happened, I'm trying to think back about how I felt, but all I thought was, I'm not going to let this destroy me. I've been through too much to let this take me out. And every year on the anniversary, I go to McDonald's and I get a McGriddle to celebrate, because I never made it to McDonald's that day. But I will say, I feel like people in my life will never truly understand what I went through unless they go through their own ego death. And I think that's why me and you have especially gotten so close over the last few years, because our egos are gone, lost, depleted, dust.
Disintegrated.
Yes.
Yeah, I will say too, when you said it was for a cute boy, I was like, oh no, it's always for a boy, man. Men ruin everything.
He was South African. He had the accent. It was a whole thing.
I remember seeing the photos too, and I just remember being so taken aback, because you couldn't even tell it was you in some of them. You could, but you couldn't. It broke my heart. Your face was so swollen, and it was really hard to see. I was just glad you were alive, bro.
The car accident was horrific. All the doctors don't know how I survived. The breaks I had were very, very clean, so no surgery was required. No intensive PT was necessary. But when I show people the car, their reactions are surprising to me, because I think it's because I ended up being so quote unquote okay given how bad the accident was, that seeing other people's reaction really brings it home. Like, no, this is an experience that happened. Especially for my parents, it changed our relationship, and they understand that everyone is 15 seconds away from being disabled. life being changed. Every phone call can be from the police. Every missed call could be the last call you could have had. The biggest thing that I noticed after the accident was when I saw people that I knew passing away from car accidents. I was really upset. Like, why do I get to, like, I was such a bad person back in the day. Why do I still get to be here? But I realized maybe it's to make the amends and make the changes or live the life that God intended me to live without all the distractions.
Yes, I got in a car accident as well. Most of my listeners know that by now. If you don't, go back and watch the story episodes, and it just shares all of that in those. My mom and dad, whenever I call them still, if it's late at night, because I typically don't talk to my parents at night, just during the day. If I call them late at night, my mom answers the phone, and I can just tell. She tries not to, but she's full on panic mode still. She's like, what's going on? Are you okay? What happened? Because it's so traumatizing not only to me, but to everyone in my family too, everything that I went through. So it really takes a toll on everyone in your life.
I don't think I've shown you the video. I'll send it after, but 2 years ago, I never sleep in. So this was just a random day. My phone died, didn't plug it in, and I slept in until the afternoon. I'm very routine. And when I didn't call my mom that morning, she got really nervous. I ended up being woken up to by police officers and my mom sobbing in the front yard. And that's really kind of was like a shot in the gut of like, wow, as much pain and suffering as I went through in this accident, my mom will forever not have a moment of peace from this. And just to clarify, the car accident did result in a lawsuit that took 4 years. Not at fault, the guy was at fault, but because it was in a small town, it was just really difficult to get any resolution in the middle of COVID. So going through that was a negative because when I really did need to stand up for other situations in my future, I was so depleted and exhausted from the fight previously that I just didn't have anything left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lawsuit will take a lot out of you, especially for that long. So how did things change after the accident? I know you went into it a little bit, but in regards to your mental health and also how you viewed yourself physically as well.
So there's two ways I view myself because in the moment, I thought I looked amazing. Before the accident, I was 130 pounds. By the time I got back to Florida State, I was 110 pounds. You could see my pelvis, you could see my spine. It was horrific. It was genuinely horrific. But I have never gotten so many compliments. So many doors opened up for certain experiences or boys or people who were interested in me, and walking in every room as the skinniest one, knowing people are going to look at you thinking it's for a good reason, but them thinking, oh my God, give this bitch a burger. It was, I've had someone say that to me.
I laugh because it's so true and it shouldn't be true.
But for me, I have always restricted my eating. I've always been that way. I've had a lack of control throughout my life. So if I can have control over something, I'll do it. So after the accident, I really, really restricted myself. It was horrific. And I then graduated, started corporate America, and then the guys loved me in the office. The women hated me. So I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't know what to do, where to go. I ended up gaining all the way up to 150 pounds due to a toxic relationship I was going through. And just, life being sad. It's not a singular reason for anything, but I was just so uncomfortable in my own skin. I was uncomfortable when I was skinny. I was uncomfortable when I was at the body weight that I'm technically supposed to be at for my height. And then over this last year, especially, I started doing weightlifting, and that's been the major game changer for me because I've always looked good, but I've never been this strong. And that is very important because given my injuries that I have, if I don't consistently work out and keep my muscles strong, my posture and everything will go to shit and it'll be so painful.
I was going to say that probably impacted your healing a lot too, because if you're not getting in the nutrients that you need, your body's going to stay weak. And that happened to me recently as well. I've been eating consistently and weightlifting. And my goal today is I just want to be able to do 10 pull-ups or more than that, just because
I saw them.
They weren't the best form, but we're getting there. But I want to be able to lift my body weight, and I want to be able to do things.
I was shocked because I can't do that. And I know how hard it is to do a pull-up. I'm like, that is one bad chica. Like, that is my friend. I was like, yeah, let's go when I saw you do that because that was amazing. Even one is huge. Genuinely, bro. You should be so proud of yourself.
You're so sweet to me. Stop. See, this is why you don't need men in your life. You just need a Kennedy or a really good friend.
I like attention too much to live without men.
Unfortunately, so. What I have realized, though, over the years in being at a healthy weight and even as having a healthy relationship now, which I could say about maybe some of my relationships, but not all of them in my past, is even the people who were looking at me at my skinniest were probably the people I didn't need attention from. They were the toxic guys who just wanted a piece of to sorry for my French, but it's true. The ones who were kind of more profane and just saw women as objects. It wasn't really people I needed to have attention from. And now I feel like I get the right attention for who I am as a person and not just how I look.
Well, for me, a big thing was when I left my last relationship, my ex told me, he goes, I just don't think you're attractive. And he met me when I was 110 pounds after the accident. So, and I looked like a young child with how skinny I was. So for him to say that when now I look like the woman I should be, it was really discombobulating on, I don't know what to do. And it took me a while to realize your body isn't supposed to be built for others. It's supposed to be built for yourself and the impact you want it to have in the life you live.
100%. So let's dive into that a little bit if you're willing. Tell us about that last relationship, because I was, with you through a lot of that, and I did see the ins and outs and some things that I didn't necessarily agree with throughout that time. So I just wanted to hear from your perspective. What made you get into that relationship? How were things throughout the relationship, and why did it initially end?
Hindsight's always 2020, but looking back, the relationship started because my accident happened. And I never know if it would have ended differently, but my perspective is this. I feel like I was just really sad. I had nothing else going on in my life. I didn't have a car. I just needed a win. And there was someone who was nice to me, someone who made me feel seen when I was hiding because I didn't want anyone to know what I was going through, and this person knew. So it was kind of like a trauma bond in that moment. And we were both graduating from Florida State, and I had a townhouse up there. So he moved in because he had a rat infestation at his apartment.
I thought you were about to say he had a pet rat, and I was like, a pet rat?
No, the first time he took me over there was a dead rat on the couch, and I'm like, get your stuff, move in with me, because I'm not spending the night here. So he ends up moving in with me. We graduate. We end up moving to Clearwater, and a year into our relationship, I had the opportunity to purchase a house, and he went in on that venture with me, or I allowed him to go on that venture with me. Never do it. Never buy a house with a man. Gosh, it was the worst decision I could ever make. But also, I just needed a win so badly. I, looking back, knew the relationship wasn't going to work, but with the economy we had, there was nothing I can do. I thought I could make it work. I thought, maybe this relationship happened because the accident happened and I deserve something good. So, it was me putting my emotions in weird places that they didn't belong. And nor is it my ex's responsibility to help me work through those things. It is his responsibility to communicate lack of interest in working through certain things. So communication was a big issue we had, or lack thereof. Our communication styles, very different, but also culturally we were very different. And everything just came to a head. So we started dating October 2021, separated in March 2025. We were about to go to Paris, and he asked my parents to go ring shopping, unknown to me. It's not that I'm upset about it. I just think it was a very weird end to everything. He took my parents ring shopping and came home the next day, and he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And for some reason, I was like, okay, I'm going to my parents' house. So I packed up my stuff and I called my mom, and she was like, did he propose? I go, no, we broke up. So when he went to Paris, I packed all my clothes up and I moved in with my parents for a little bit. And then I traveled around Colorado this last year, and screaming into the void of the mountainside, game changer, let me just tell you. But it was, I don't want to say worse than what I went through with the accident. It was just very different. I just feel like I couldn't catch a break. But also I needed that to happen because I needed a reminder that I can't rely on anyone else but myself. The accident made me too vulnerable, made me rely too much on others. And God did what God always does, is shake you right. And I was shook.
Yeah, a heartbreak will definitely shake you. I know that feeling very well. And that was one of the reasons I got out of my last relationship, is I just needed some time to just be with myself and find myself again. And as cliche as that sounds, it really is true. I will say the 1 year that I was celibate after that and just not even dating, like nothing, not talking to guys, just hang out with my girlfriends. I wasn't completely isolated, right? But I had people in my support system who truly supported me and who knew every single part of me and didn't judge me for any of it. Through that journey alone in that year, I feel like I've learned the most about myself than I have probably throughout my entire life. And that's because I was being selfish and I was putting me first. Whereas when I'm in a relationship, I really don't do that as much. I put the other person first to a detriment. And I would say now, luckily, it helps to have such a supportive partner. I'm really good about finding that balance between knowing what I need to do for me and for Austin, making sure I fill my cup up first. But I definitely was not like that in past relationships. It was always that person came first to my detriment.
I feel the exact same way. I was in a relationship 4 years high school, 4 years in college, and I never lived alone. I always had, my significant other or my siblings living with me. And what really shook me was I walked into Five Below when I was living in Colorado, the first time living alone. And I saw all these things. I'm like, oh, my ex would like this. My brother would like this. Oh, my mom would like this. And then I go, what would I like? And I walked around the store and I realized I don't know what I'd like. So I started just really thinking about if someone got me X, Y, and Z, would I get excited about it? And yes, because someone else is doing it, but I kept in mind the objects and I get them for myself. It's retraining the way our brain was formed. Well, especially I feel like for you with the community outreach, you were always others first. So having to retrain and rewire that was really difficult.
Yeah, I roll my eyes a little bit for those watching as you say that, because don't get me wrong, I love volunteering, I love giving back, but there comes a point where, for me at least, I did feel like I was literally giving to everyone and then I was exhausted and depleted at the end of the day and I was experiencing huge burnout. So I have moved away from that, but there are still times, honestly, where I find myself falling back into that. And part of it is just wanting to distract from myself as well, because even today, I'm in a lot happier place than I was, but there's still days where I don't 100% love myself. I mean, that's not realistic anyways, but it's in those moments that I then try and do something to refill my own cup as opposed to just making it a distraction and doing something for someone else, if that makes sense.
When it comes to feeling like you don't love yourself, still to this day, if you ask me to take a photo, I usually will say no. I let Alex post a Facebook photo of us. That's because I know there's no judgment there, but if I were to post it on my feed, there would be judgment because everything up until this point has been edited to perfection, including my fake that's non-existent in real life. You portray yourself in so many different ways. You don't even know what you look like. I used to have so many different filters that when I go to take a selfie, I didn't recognize what I looked like.
Oh my God, the filters are so bad, Kennedy. I went back the other day through my old stories. I was trying to find something. I don't remember what. Like an old memory. And as I scrolled back, the filters I put on myself in college, it looked fake. It looked fake. But so many people liked those photos. I'm like, do you guys not see that this looks fake? Because looking back now, I'm like, I like cringe. I look like a real housewife, but not in a cute way. Like one who got too much Botox.
You know what stinks though is I have a lot of my photos from high school and college, but I don't have the originals. I have the edited ones. But I wish I wouldn't have been so insecure back then and I would have saved the originals because I want to know what I actually looked like, felt like, what I changed. I want to see the mindset of what specific aspects of my face or body I changed throughout the years. Did I pinpoint and focus on one thing for a while and then switch it or things like that?
Yeah, that's interesting to think about, especially if you're showing your kids your photos one day and you're just thinking to yourself, man, I don't even know if this is what I looked like. I never thought about that before.
Well, especially having brothers, I think about their dating experiences and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with getting Botox, filler, any of that, but there is something wrong with not, being true to yourself in some degree. There needs to be a balance there.
Or getting all that done and then still thinking, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. At that point, I think you need to do a little more soul searching and see, okay, what is it that is actually missing in my life that I need to fill? Because it's not getting more filler. Where would you say that you're at today in your healing journey with everything that we've talked about?
I would say I'm at a very realistic point with my healing journey in regards to understanding that it is not something that can be done overnight. It's something that's going to be happening for the rest of my life. And it can be a roller coaster, but it's a roller coaster I'll choose to step on and ride multiple times because the person in the life I live today, 13-year-old me would be so proud and would stand by me. And that's all I could ever ask for is my younger self. So look at me. Even though I have the insecurities I have today, I think my younger me would be obsessed, and that just makes me so happy.
That makes me happy too. And just so you know, we're obsessed also. Or I will speak for myself. I'm obsessed also. Just seeing you now versus college, and not to say that you weren't this bubbly, happy person in college, but now it just feels so much more authentic. Even when we were frolicking through the flowers, maybe a little high on pop brownies, even now it just feels so like authentic. And I feel like you're not afraid to like be your goofy self, which is the main thing I love about you. Whereas I feel like in college, and I was like this too, we were a lot more polished and rounded out because, again, we were trying to portray this person that we were.
100%. When it was just me and you, I didn't know what personality to match because me and you were trying to match each other's personalities.
Yes.
So eventually, our natural personalities just so happened to align so much that we didn't need to overthink it. So I genuinely think the frolicking was me kind of being robotic, me not knowing what to do. Because I remember you held my hand when we were frolicking, and I'm not used to holding my girlfriend's hands. That's just, I know some people are, some people aren't. And I was overthinking it so much. I'm like, okay, should I hold her hand? Should I not hold her hand? Like, I don't know what to do. But I never felt judged for overthinking it. So it allowed me the opportunity to figure it out for myself of how do I want friendship to be portrayed from both perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a huge compliment to me because I never want people to feel judged around me. So that makes me happy. I feel like I'm not a very...
all my dirty secrets.
I do. I now. Although I don't know, there's some things even in this episode that I'm learning, which is also why I wanted to do it with you, because I feel like there's a lot we haven't dived into. Only because healing goes so deep and there is so many layers to it. And there's things you push out in your trauma too that you suppress and you don't remember until maybe you're talking with someone.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of things I glossed over to save face for myself, others, and it's always a balancing act of I want to grow as much as possible, but you can't constantly fault others if that growth has happened and the healing has been done. So there's a lot of things I didn't mention, but also they're just part of the journey. They're just, stones on the path. They're not significant indicators of change. The moments I brought up were significant moments.
Yes. I feel like if you were to talk about every single detail that goes on in your life, in your healing journey, it'd be a lifelong podcast. Heck, we would just keep the thing rolling because it's just so much to unpack. Well, with that, is there anything else before I start to lead us out that you do want to share with listeners? Anything that you do feel like you glossed over that you want to talk about? Anything?
I do just want to say, again, comparison is the thief of joy. And I remember growing up, girls would say, I don't want to go out with you because everyone's going to look at you. And people look at me saying, oh, well, that's a compliment. No, that made me feel like I can't go out because I'm making someone else feel insecure, which is going to make me feel insecure. The point of me saying this is everyone hates how they look, how they feel at least some point in their life. You cannot compare yourself to others because they don't even know who they really are. We're all just trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Everyone has their flaws and insecurities. In fact, even that statement right there, whoever said that to you, screams insecurity to me. Like there was something that they were deeply unhappy about themselves that then they are putting on you, which wasn't fair to you because then it makes you overthink your appearance. But that's what, unfortunately, some people do in this world is they have to bring others down to their level. What is something that you think you're still working on or still learning?
My rejection complex. My ego is still trying to revive itself constantly. And the way we grow up, reputation, never looking like there's a chip in the stone is hard. But understanding that scars are a part of the journey and they're not something to hide but to show. So don't be disappointed in the reality of the situation. Give yourself grace and applaud yourself for how far you've come despite what you've been through.
I love that. You know what I've been doing recently, and I haven't always been successful at it. I don't always do it. But sometimes I'll set myself up for rejection. Like I'll do something or have an ask of someone where I know they're going to say no just to get more comfortable with rejection. I saw someone do that on Instagram and I was like, this is a good idea. So even something like going up to someone at a Krispy Kreme and saying, hey, do you have any leftover donuts you're giving away? And if they say no, it's like, okay. But sometimes they'll say yes. Sometimes they'll be like, yeah, here's a whole dozen. And then you can go give them out to homeless people, eat them in your car, whatever you want to do.
I did that with you at the beach the other day by meeting my new girlfriend, Catherine, the one with the baby I was taking the photos of.
Yeah, you did.
I
was so proud of you.
I only did that because you were there and I had the confidence. I'm like, okay, I can do this now. I can make a friend. Because it's hard at this age making friends. By the way, if you're out there and it's hard for you to make friends, you're not alone. We're all suffering in silence. We should start a group.
Bro, I see people's engagement photos because it's that time of year, and I see all the bridesmaids that they have, and I think to myself, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna have that many bridesmaids. I feel like I'm gonna have you, maybe like some of my other close friends I went to the beach with recently, but I don't know. It is really hard to keep friends or make friends in adulthood. And it's not a reflection on you. It's just like people are at different stages in your life. People are moving around, busy. It's just hard to stay in touch with people. You have to make a lot of
I
effort.
had a girlfriend from kindergarten all the way to college, and all of a sudden our lives just separated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not mad about it. I'm so happy for her because friendship isn't a moment, it's a lifelong commitment in regards to you have to support from the sidelines or from the nosebleeds. You just have to be there in the background.
Yes. Or even with us, I feel like there's a lot of times where we go without talking for a while, but then we'll reconnect, and that's just because we have things going on in our life. But I will say with you, and one thing I've always really appreciated about you is no matter what I have going on in my life, I always know I'm going to get either a text or a message or a comment from you, or even just you calling me saying, hey, I saw you did this. I'm really proud of you. And I could be having the day and just seeing your name on my phone, I'm like, wow, I feel so much better. Those little moments that you take, the 2 seconds you take to send a text message to someone who's your friend, it makes a huge difference in their life. It really does.
It really does.
All right. Well, with that, what is something that you want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
Everyone is faking it. Every single person out there is faking it in every regard, every single regard, even in bed.
Fake it till you make it, my mama always said.
Exactly.
I agree. Well, thank you for coming on. You know, we're going to have to hang out
for
one-on-one
having me.
soon, but I'm really
Yes.
excited to release this. And I just think, again, you're just going to make a huge impact on everyone listening like you've made a huge impact in my life. So I really appreciate you, girlfriend.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Love you.
I love you too. And I'm going to stop the recording, but stay on because I want to say bye to you. As always, thank you all for being here. It has truly been such a treat to listen to Kennedy, and I hope you feel the same way. If you would like to be on the Be Well with Alex podcast, we can do it from anywhere, virtual, as you saw. She did it from the comfort of her home. But please DM me, reach out to me on my website, Be Well with Alex, and I would love to have you on to share your experience, strength, and hope. Thanks again, and you all have a lovely day.